Sit down some evening and add up what your kitchen truly costs you. The groceries, yes, but also the boxed mixes, the bottled sauces, the paper towels, the takeout on the nights no one felt like cooking, the good food that went soft in the drawer and out to the bin. It comes to a great deal more than most folks would guess, and a good part of it slips away in small leaks. $1 here and $2 there, week upon week, until it is real money gone. Now I want you to sit with this. Nearly every one of those leaks can be stopped with an old habit that costs you almost nothing. The women who ran a plain kitchen wasted next to nothing and bought next to nothing they could make themselves. And they fed big families well on little money, not by going without, but by knowing how. There is no mystery to a kitchen that saves. There never was. It is a great many small habits, each one plain and simple, that add up to a fortune kept over a year. I am Annie Stoltzfus. I am Amish, from Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, and I have run a plain kitchen my whole life, the way my mother ran hers, and her mother before her. Today I will give you 35 of the old money-saving tricks, plainly, one after another. Some you may know, some you may have forgotten, and a few, I hope, will be new to you. Take the ones that suit your kitchen and leave the rest. One thing before I begin. There is far more of these old ways than I could fit into a single video, so I gathered them into a book, 66 of them, the kitchen and the cooking pot and the breadboard and the rest of the house, with the honest savings written beside each one. It is at amishkitchenwisdom.com for anyone who wants the whole of it. I will not bring it up again. If you would like it, you know where to find it. Now let me give you the 35. The first is to bake your own bread. A loaf you bake at home costs well under $1 in flour, against 3 or 4 for a good loaf at the store. And it has nothing in it but flour, water, salt, and leaven. Bake your own, and you save $1 or 2 every loaf, and eat far better besides. That alone, for a family that goes through several loaves a week, is real money across a year. The second is to keep a sourdough start, so you never buy yeast again. A little crock of flour and water, kept alive on the counter and fed a spoonful now and then, will raise your bread for years for the cost of nothing. One start, tended, replaces every packet of yeast you would ever buy. The third is to buy your staples in bulk. The flour, the sugar, the oats, the beans, the rice, bought in large sacks rather than little boxes, they cost far less by the pound, and they keep for a long while in a clean, dry, airtight container. Buy big, keep it well against damp and moths, and you cut the cost of the very things you use most. The fourth is to waste nothing, the whole heart of a plain kitchen. Stale bread becomes crumbs, or croutons, or a bread pudding. The odd vegetables softening in the drawer become a soup. Every scrap has a next use, and a kitchen that throws nothing out is a kitchen that buys less. Waste not today, and you want not tomorrow. The fifth is to make your own broth from bones and scraps. Keep a bag in the freezer for your onion ends, carrot peels, celery tops, and the bones from your chickens. When it is full, cover it with water and let it simmer, and you have a rich broth for the cost of scraps you are throwing away. Store broth runs $2 or $3 the box. Yours costs near nothing and tastes far better. The sixth is to grow a little of your own food. You need no farm. A few pots on a sunny sill, a small bed by the door, a few tomato plants, some lettuce, a row of beans, and a pot of herbs will save you a surprising sum across a summer. For fresh herbs alone run several dollars a bunch at the store, and a plant gives you them all season for pennies. The seventh is to skip the boxed mixes. A box of pancake mix is only flour, a little sugar, salt, and leavening, a few cents worth, sold back to you at many times the price. The same is true of the biscuit mix, the muffin mix, the seasoning packets. Learn a few plain recipes, keep them by the stove, and you need never buy an overpriced mix again. The eighth is to can and preserve when food is cheap and in season. When the garden or the market overflows in summer and the price drops low, that is the time to put food up. Applesauce, tomatoes, pickles, jam. A bushel of cheap summer fruit becomes a winter's worth of jars, and you eat summer's bounty in January for a fraction of the winter price. The ninth is to freeze the surplus. If canning feels a step too far, freezing is the simple cousin. Chop and freeze the extra vegetables. Freeze the berries at their peak. Freeze the bread you cannot eat in time. You catch food at its best and its cheapest, and save yourself from the high prices of the cold months. The 10th is to make your own yogurt. It takes only milk and a spoonful of yogurt to start it, kept warm overnight. A gallon of milk makes a great deal of yogurt for the price of the milk alone. By our reckoning, near $130 saved across a year for a family that eats it often, against buying it by the tub. The 11th is to make your own soft cheese. Warm milk, a splash of vinegar to curdle it, strained through a cloth, gives you a fresh farmer's cheese in minutes for the cost of the milk, a thing that costs dear at the store. Simple, quick, and far cheaper than the jar. The 12th is to master the one-pot meal. A pot of chicken thighs with potatoes, carrots, and seasoning feeds a family for half the week and costs little. For the cheaper cuts, turn tender and rich in the slow simmer. One pot, cheap ingredients, and fewer dishes besides. The 13th is to cook with the cheaper cuts of meat. The tough cuts, the ones that cost far less, turn meltingly tender with long, slow cooking, for the slow heat breaks them down. A cheap cut and patience gives you a better supper than a dear cut rushed. The 14th is to make one bird feed you 3 times. Roast a whole chicken for Sunday. A whole bird costs far less by the pound than the cut-up breast. The meat serves Sunday's dinner, the leftovers make Monday's salad or pot pie, and the bones make Tuesday's broth and soup. One bird, 3 meals. The 15th is to lean on the humble grains and pulses, the beans, the lentils, the barley, the rice. A pound of dried beans costs about $2 and makes many hearty meals, dinner for pennies a plate, while meat climbs ever dearer. Stretch your meat with beans, or go without it some nights entirely, and watch the grocery bill fall. The 16th is to cook dried beans, not canned. The canned bean costs 3 times the dried, for you are paying for the can and the water. A bag of dried beans, soaked and simmered, saves a family $65 to $80 across a year over the cans, and they taste better for it. The 17th is to save your energy in the cooking. When you heat the oven, bake more than one thing at once, for it costs no more to fill the oven than to heat it near empty. Reheat several portions on the stovetop rather than in bits. Cook double and save the second half. The oven's heat, once paid for, ought not go to waste. The 18th is to give up the single-use things. The paper towels, the paper napkins, the plastic bags and wrap. Bought again and again, they cost a family a fair sum across a year. Cloth towels and napkins, cut from worn-out shirts and sheets, wash and last for years. A jar keeps leftovers as well as any plastic bag. The 19th is to barter and trade with your neighbours. You have more tomatoes than you can use. Your neighbour has more eggs. A jar of your pickles for a dozen of their eggs, and both of you eat better for nothing spent. It saves money, and it builds the kind of neighbourliness that is worth more than money. The 20th is to make your own snacks. The boxed crackers, the granola bars, the little bags of pretzels cost dear for what they are. Popcorn from a bag of kernels costs pennies a bowl. Granola from oats and honey costs a fraction of the boxed kind. Make your own, and you feed the children better for far less. The 21st is to plan your meals for the week. A little planning around what is already in the pantry and what is cheap and in season saves a surprising amount. For the family that plans wastes less food and is far less tempted by the expensive takeout on a tired evening. A notebook by the stove and a few minutes' thought is all it takes. The 22nd is to buy good tools once, rather than cheap ones again and again. A good cast iron pan costs more at the start, but it lasts a lifetime and past it, handed down through the family, doing everything from frying to baking. Buy well once, care for it, and you never buy it again. The 23rd is to skip the fancy appliances. The bread machine, the yogurt maker, the single-purpose gadget. Most solve a problem you can solve with your own 2 hands and a pot. They cost dear and gather dust. A few good plain tools that each do many things serve you far better and cost far less. The 24th is to eat with the seasons. Produce in its season costs a fraction of the same thing out of season. A summer tomato against a sad winter one. A fall squash against a spring one. Eat what is cheap and plentiful now, and lean on the root vegetables that keep and cost little through the winter. The 25th is to turn your vegetable scraps into broth. This bears saying twice, for it is that good. The peels, the ends, the tops you would throw away, saved in a freezer bag and simmered with water, make a fine broth for nothing, where the store's box costs dear. The 26th is to save your bacon grease. That grease you pour down the drain is kitchen gold. Kept in a clean jar in the cold box, it lasts for months and gives a rich flavour to your eggs, your cornbread, your greens, standing in for oil or butter you would otherwise buy. A byproduct you already made, saved instead of wasted. The 27th is to make your own energy bars and travel food. The bought bar costs $1 or $2 for a few cents of oats, peanut butter, and honey pressed together. Make your own by the pan, cut them, and wrap them, and you feed the family's hunger between meals for a fraction of the cost. The 28th is to make ice cream without a machine. A summer treat for pennies. Milk, sugar, and vanilla, either hand-cranked the old way or shaken in a bag set in ice and salt, gives you a cold treat that costs a fraction of the tub, and you may flavour it with whatever the season gives. The 29th is to learn to sew and mend. A torn apron, a lost button, a worn seam, mended in a few minutes with a 10-cent bit of thread, rather than thrown out and replaced at real cost. And the worn-out things past mending become rags and potholders. Keep what you have in good repair, and you buy far less new. The 30th is to work as a family. When the whole household turns to the big tasks, the pickling, the baking, the putting up. The work is light and quick, and it costs nothing to do together what you would otherwise pay for or leave undone. The children learn the skills that will save them money all their lives, and the kitchen becomes where the family grows close. The 31st is to cook slow. The tough, cheap cut, given hours in a low pot, comes out tender and rich as any dear one, for the slow heat does the work. Slow cooking turns the cheapest ingredients into the finest suppers, and fills the house with a smell no store can sell you. The 32nd is to cook once and eat twice. Make the big batch, the double casserole, the big pot of soup or chili, and eat from it more than once, or freeze the half for a busy day. It saves the money, and it saves you from the takeout on the night you are too tired to cook. Many of these dishes taste the better for a day's rest besides. The 33rd is to make your own seasonings and marinades. The taco seasoning, the ranch mix, the marinade packet are only common spices you likely already have. Sold back to you, dear. Mix your own from bulk spices in clean jars, and you save a great deal, and you know exactly what is in your food. The 34th is to keep and pass down your recipes. A binder of tried-and-true family recipes is worth real money, for the family that cooks from familiar plain recipes spends far less than the one forever buying strange ingredients for a new dish that may not even please. Write down what works, note where the good deals are, and hand it on. And the 35th is the one that ties them all together. Fix it. Do not replace it. The wobbly pot handle. the loose knob, the split spoon, mended in a few minutes rather than thrown out and bought new. The Amish way with a tool is to buy it well, care for it, and mend it. And so a good pan or a good knife serves not just you, but your children after you. Every fix is money kept and a thing kept out of the rubbish heap. Now let me take a moment, for this is where it comes together. Look back over the whole of it. Baking your own bread and keeping a leaven, buying in bulk and wasting nothing, making your own broth, your own yogurt, your own cheese, your own snacks and seasonings, growing a little, preserving the surplus, eating with the seasons, cooking one bird into 3 meals, leaning on the beans, cooking slow and cooking once for twice, mending rather than replacing, buying good tools once and doing the work as a family. Not one of these is hard. Not one asks a special skill or a fancy thing, and together, across a year, they add up to a great deal of money kept in your own pocket. And here is the thing I would have you carry with you. There is no money in teaching folks these old ways. The store would far rather sell you the boxed mix and the bottled sauce and the tub of yogurt and the jug of broth, week upon week, year upon year, than have you learn you can make them all yourself for pennies. Nobody runs an advertisement telling you to save your bacon grease and mend your apron and simmer your scraps into broth, because there is nothing in it for them to sell. So the knowing of it got quiet, the way the good plain ways always do when there is no profit in the saying of them, passed from mother to daughter in kitchens like ours, for as long as there were daughters in the kitchen to learn it, while the rest of the world slowly forgot that a family could feed itself well on little and do it with its own 2 hands. So this week, do not try all 35 at once. That is the way to give up by Friday. Choose 2 or 3 that suit your kitchen. Bake a loaf. Start a broth bag in the freezer. Save your bacon grease in a jar. Do those until they are habit, and then choose 2 or 3 more. That is how a kitchen changes. Not all at once, but one plain habit at a time, until one day you look up and find you are running the kind of kitchen your great-grandmother ran, and keeping the money she kept. Then tell me in the comments, which of these did your mother or grandmother do, and which will you try first? And if your family had a money-saving trick I did not name, share it, for the old ways are exactly the kind of thing that gets lost when nobody writes them down, and I read every single one. Until then, keep the plain things close. They were never half so simple as they look.